Hi, I'm Rhonda Dean Kinsel. I'm the Associate Dean for Students in the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Oklahoma. And in that role, I oversee academic advising and student engagement in our college. I also have a master's degree and a PhD from OU in composition, rhetoric, and literacy. Most of my academic life and work has been focused on writing. I taught first year composition in our college for the entirety of my degree, from fall 2000 until spring 2009. And I returned to the classroom after I became associate dean and have taught composition classes online and in traditional settings. And I just recently taught our writing for the medical professions course. So this is the work that I do most of the time. And I'm now serving as NACADA's coordinator of writing support. You may have seen one of our earlier webinars where I've talked about how our virtual writing groups work and the importance of giving and receiving feedback in a virtual writing group, or the writing process and the significance of engaging writing as a process. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about reading as an impetus for good writing, or perhaps even reading as the preparation for good writing. One of the reasons many people feel inadequate to write an academic essay or research paper is because they're just not yet proficient in reading those types of writing. As primary role academic advisors, our professional lives are not necessarily conducive to academic reading. We spend a lot of our time, most of our time, focused on students and the practical day-to-day work of reviewing policies and providing academic services. So we're often much too busy to give the time to the type of reading that would teach us the conventions of academic writing. And consequently, we just don't feel really prepared to write that way. As faculty advisors, our focus of academic reading and writing is in our disciplines. So we might have very different rules in that part of our work than the type of research and analysis we tend to do in the scholarship of advising. So how could you get started learning about this type of writing? The NACADA Journal, for example, is an academically rigorous, peer-reviewed journal. Everything you read in this journal is written in the format of an academic essay. If you want to be published in the NACADA Journal, then you need to read the NACADA Journal. If you want to be published in other academic journals, you need to read the articles already published in those journals. Reading for writing is about noticing and learning the conventions of a particular style of writing. So let's just take the NACADA Journal as our first example. Reading the journal will first clue you into a number of the conventions for this type of writing. Most of the articles begin with an abstract. Articles in the journal are either social science based by presenting a quantitative study, meaning it shows data, statistics, or a qualitative study, meaning it presents narrative-based evidence that supports the findings and conclusions. Or you might read an article in the journal that's theory-based, which means that the writer states a theory in the beginning, explains that theory, and then presents an idea or a practice that is grounded in that theory. Each article in the journal contains a number of footnotes or endnotes that cite several sources. The purpose of these footnotes or endnotes is just to demonstrate how other ideas are already integrated or influence this particular writer and his or her idea. The footnotes really kind of show a pathway, if you will, a trail of how the author has interacted with scholarship that already exists in this field or area. Another thing you'll notice is that the writing style in these articles is quite formal. There are no contractions or slang. The vocabulary requires that you're a practitioner in the field in order to understand all the verbiage. The articles typically are divided under subheadings that are quite similar. You'll notice it as you read the journal. Subheadings like introduction, methodology, findings, or results. And typically the conclusion demonstrates how the study or theory is applicable to the field of academic services or academic advising. Now, you can do a similar study of the conventions of any type of writing by reading it across several publications. You can read the many types of articles, for example, in the NACADA Clearinghouse. You can read the Academic Advising Today to learn about that publication's conventions. You can read the author guidelines of the NACADA Review to learn what's expected in those manuscripts that are submitted. Every publication will have clear and easily accessible guidelines and conventions that authors are to follow when they submit an article or a study to that journal or that publication. The point is that you have to read a publication critically or closely for a number of issues or for a number of times to understand those conventions and how they're utilized in that journal. Then you must internalize those conventions for your own writing for such a publication. No one can fully teach you that unless you really commit to spending the time reading that type of writing. Another significant way to ensure you're meeting the conventions of the publication or the site to which you're submitting your work is to join one of NACADA's virtual writing groups. This group of colleagues can serve as your accountability group to ensure that your work is mirroring the conventions of the publication to which you're submitting it, or the website, or the journal. Your colleagues have good experience with the type of publication or the site where you want to publish, and they can offer you critical feedback by reading your article or giving you insight into the conventions you need to follow. Another way to find this type of feedback outside of our writing groups, or even in addition to the NACADA writing groups for that matter, is through your campus's writing center. Most campuses have a writing center where writing accountability and review is available, even for staff and faculty. On our campus, we have faculty writing groups each semester that you can join. So access to this is a really good resource for you. Contact the Writing Center on your campus and request to meet with someone to review your article or to give you advice on the conventions you need to follow for a particular type of publication that you want to submit to. If you're not a member of a virtual writing group, or if your campus doesn't have an accessible writing center, then appeal to one of your colleagues on campus or across the world, really, to provide this important feedback. Reading a journal or blog or publication benefits you in other ways as well, besides learning the conventions of that particular outlet. Reading like this also ensures that you'll gradually internalize the style and the vocabulary, as we've already discussed, the conventions of a particular style of writing. Your writing will gradually begin to mirror what you're reading. If you're reading academic journals and research articles, your writing will begin to take on those same characteristics. But conversely, if you're reading People Magazine, BuzzFeed, Twitter, your writing will also begin to mirror those more non-academic types of reading. I've caught myself doing this. I've caught myself writing an email and using the letter N instead of typing the word IN. Have you ever done, something like that? This is proof that I'm internalizing the conventions of texting. I text so much throughout the day to my friends or to my family that if I'm not careful, I can just begin writing more formal academic work. Inadvertently, I can just insert a texting convention, which is, as you know, completely inappropriate. So take stock of what you're reading. If you're not reading academic articles, peer-reviewed journals, formal book chapters, or research essays, then it's going to be very difficult for you to adapt to the academic conventions that are required for publication. You have access to all types of journals, usually through your institution's library database. So get some colleagues together and plan a common reading once a month during your lunch hour together, or even virtually on Zoom or through Skype. Talk not only about the content of the article that you find interesting about advising, but also about the sections of the article and the ways that the authors are stating their arguments and supporting their claims. Notice the transitions between paragraphs and sections. Take note of how you might have written it more clearly. Not every article that's published is perfectly constructed. The more you read, the more deeply you think. The more deeply you think, the more ready you are to write. You have an important voice. Please share it with us. Look for more information and resources on our NACADA Writer Support webpage, and we wish you good luck as you read and write.